We all have those people in our lives that just give us unsolicited advice, right? Whether it's good advice, bad advice, it's just people are always trying to put their opinions onto you. And when you're trying to lose weight and you're going through a transformation, there's some things you got to pay attention to. And I lost 100 pounds when I was going through my transformation. Oh man, it was just a ton of just constant inbound. People telling me what I should do, what I shouldn't do. So what I did is I came out with what I think are the 5 pieces of just the worst, most bad advice that people gave me when I was going through my weight loss and through my transformation. Now, at the time, it didn't even seem like bad advice. It just was advice. But now, knowing what I know now, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was really bad advice. So if I can parlay it over to you guys and just help you out, if you're going through a transformation, then it's a win. So we're gonna break it all down. And again, a little on my story. Yes, I lost 100 pounds, actually more than 100 pounds. I was 285 pounds before. I was working a corporate healthcare job. I was miserable. I was financially successful, but my life was crumbling. I mean, you can see my story in a lot of different places, but anyhow, it just at least lends a little bit of credibility here. If you wouldn't mind, please hit that red subscribe button, then hit that little bell icon. That way you can turn on notifications, know whenever I go live or anything like that. Okay, now these are in no particular order. Okay, the first one that I want to bring up, don't lose weight too fast. Okay, I see the point here. And I know enough physiology to know that when people lose weight really fast, it can slow down the metabolism. It can slow down what's called the resting metabolic rate. Now, mind you, the resting metabolic rate is probably the biggest just overall factor in how successful you are at losing weight. And you know what the biggest driver of the resting metabolic rate is? Your lean muscle mass. Now, I was a heavy guy, and I was definitely afraid when people would tell me, hey, if you're gonna lose this 100 pounds, like your metabolism is gonna slow down and it's just, you're gonna be miserable and you're gonna gain it all back. Okay, now here's the interesting thing. I lost over 100 pounds in a little over a year, and I kept it off. I haven't rebounded. In fact, I'm in the best shape of my life right now. And I would say I lost it pretty aggressively. So I've racked my mind, like how come I didn't have these issues? How come, and I realized it was bad advice that people were giving me. You can lose weight fast. You just have to do it right. You see, there was a study that was published in the Journal of Nutrition and Metabolism even. It took a look at 20 subjects and it had them go on a low-carb ketogenic diet to lose weight. And it had them lose weight pretty aggressively. They lost 45 pounds in 4 months. And they found at the end of the study that even though they lost that 45 pounds, their resting metabolic rate didn't change at all. That's kind of weird, because normally the resting metabolic rate would mean that like if you weigh 250 pounds and you lose 50 pounds, your metabolism is going to slow down appropriately to that 50 pounds you lost. So why did these people not have their metabolism slow down? Why did my metabolism not slow down? Why did I actually feel like I built muscle and maintained muscle? And so anyway, it all comes down to the ketogenic diet being the right way to lose weight fast. Now, hear me out. I'm an honest guy, and I will tell you that there are so many ways you can lose weight, and that calories do matter. Thermodynamics, calories in, calories out do matter, but I would arguably say the ketogenic diet allowed me to lose my body fat without losing muscle. Therefore, my resting metabolic rate stayed elevated. So I deem that bad advice. Okay, the next one, being strict all the time. You have to be strict all the time. Okay, there's like 50% of the people tell you you need to be relaxed and you can't be strict all the time, and then 50% of the people tell you you have to be completely strict, you have to be in a constant deficit. It sounds crazy to me now, because it's not about just a progressive weight loss or a progressive calorie restriction. Fat loss works best when it comes down to spontaneous calorie restriction. That's why intermittent fasting worked so well, because I'd be here and then boom, fast. That is what shocks the body. Okay, and it has to do with leptin, it has to do with a lot of different things. So a lot of people will tell you you need to have leptin spikes. You need to have these cheat meals, okay, because it's going to restore leptin levels. Not quite that way. So here's what leptin is. Let me explain it really simply. Leptin is the telephone from your fat to your brain. And when leptin levels are high, like after a big cheat meal, your fat cells call your brain and they say, hey brain, just wanted to let you know we have plenty of calories. We're good to go. If you want to turn up the metabolism a little bit, you can. So boom, metabolism burns hot. Important caveat. Leptin only really spikes high with carbohydrates. So if you're utilizing a ketogenic diet, eating a bunch of high-fat foods and spiking your calories isn't really going to spike leptin. But what it is going to do is it is going to get your thyroid balancing a little bit more. It is going to get the thermic effect of food going, and it is going to make it so that you can have those spontaneous calorie restrictions occur afterwards. You always want contrast. You want high calories, then low calories. High calories, then low calories. And there's ways that you can get your cheat meals in without having to load up on a bunch of carbohydrates. Now, when I was first starting keto, which was really like 9-10 years ago, we didn't have the good, tasty, awesome keto treats that we have today, honestly. There's so many good things out there now that I would have loved to have when I was first starting out. So this was before people even thought of fat bombs. So I was like eating macadamia nuts trying to get my calories up so that I could have this contrast, and it was killing me. But I really wanted just a piece of cake. And at the time, almond flour, if you wanted almond flour even 10 years ago, you had to be making it yourself and pulverizing it in a magic bullet blender and making a mess everywhere. Anyhow, the point is utilize the keto treats that are available as cheat meals. You don't have to come off of keto. Utilize the keto treats that are there. Okay, one of the ones that I want to give a big shout out to, just because they're near and dear to me as far as the messaging goes, and I mean, it's a great product, don't get me wrong, it's an amazing product, but it's a company called Noosh. Okay, Noosh Foods. So this is like a keto cake that is bar none one of the best keto treats that I have ever. Okay, and it's a great message. They're all about changing the world. They're not about making money. They're more about changing the world. Really good company. I know the CEO, I know the president, and I know the founder. Just an amazing company. So anyway, the point is utilize things like that. You don't need to be strict all the time, but you should be within the confines of your ketogenic space and have your cheat meals with things like that. So because of this video, I want to go ahead and just put a link down below to Noosh so that you guys can check them out and give them a shot. If you're doing keto, if you're trying to lose weight, it's a good thing to try. Good, clean ingredients, non-GMO, everything is exactly what you would need to maintain a clean lifestyle. Okay, now I want to move into probably my favorite one. It's fun to poke holes at this one. Thomas, you should be snacking often. If you snack often, you're going to get your metabolism revved up. You should do that. Okay? So I see the point, because the theory is that if you're constantly eating, then your metabolism is constantly working to digest the food. Do you know what the thermic effect of food is? Like how small of a percentage it is? It's like less than 1%. Okay. If I were to just, that's like, it just makes no sense. That's like saying, well, I'm going to go eat right now because I know that eating 2,000 calories is going to rev up my metabolism enough to burn an extra 50. There's no logic. There's logic. There's no actual sense or no actual true sense to it. Now, here's the big thing. Snacking ends up spiking your insulin. You burn fat in between meals. Okay. I was on the intermittent fasting train early on, before it was ever, again, super, super popular, right? Now, the whole reason intermittent fasting worked, the whole reason keto worked, is because I was strict with my time periods between meals. You spike your insulin when you eat something, and glucagon goes down. When insulin is up, glucagon is down. When insulin goes down, glucagon goes up. I sound like a broken record. I've talked about that so many times. But glucagon being elevated is when you can actually start burning fat. You cannot burn fat in the presence of insulin. So every time you eat, you turn off fat burning. So the longer periods of time you have between meals, the more appropriate time periods you have to actually burn fat. If you snack every 2 hours, your little window of burning fat is like a small amount of time here, a small amount of time here. You have these little broken periods, and it's like learning a language, okay? If you go to Italy and you spend 6 weeks in Italy, you're going to learn to speak Italian a lot better than if you go to Italy for 2 days, come back, go to Italy for 2 days, come back. Okay, that's the point, is that you need to be able to have these longer periods to get adapted and to actually burn fat. So that is one of my personal favorites. Boom, definitely bad advice. The next one is here, take this fat burner. This used to be one of my favorites because I was a guy that was willing to take fat burners. Like I would take all these over-the-counter things to try to get myself to lose weight more, and all it would do is make me feel sick. And the point is that it's kind of a twist. Fat burners do actually work, but they're not the end-all be-all. They're not going to make you burn more fat. What they are going to do is they're going to enhance what you're getting out of a workout at that point in time. You still have to do the work, So there was a study that was published in the Journal of International Society of Sports Nutrition. It took a look at test subjects and it gave them either a placebo or it gave them a thermogenic fat burner. Okay, and these were all weight train experienced individuals. Okay, so it was interesting though. What they did is they measured their baseline basal metabolic rate, they measured their heart rate, their catecholamines, and all kinds of things. And what they found is that the group that was taking the fat burner actually had quite a big increase in their resting metabolic rate. They measured at 60 minutes, 120 minutes, and 180 minutes. They had like a 7.8% increase in their resting metabolic rate at 60, like a 6.9% at 120, and a 9.1 at 180. So their metabolism, their resting metabolic rate did increase, but they were also working out and moving. So the point is that the placebo group still had elevations too. It was like 3%, 5%, and 6%. Versus 8, 7, and 9. So the fat burner group did burn more. The mistake is that people think that you can rely on those and not work out. And I fell victim to that. And the only plateaus that I really hit were, in retrospect, when I was leaning on fat burners too much. So the point here is fat burners are okay. They're not bad and they do assist, but you still need to work out. You still need to play that role. That was bad advice through and through. Just use them sparingly. Okay. And the last piece of bad advice that people gave me was something that I held on to for way too long. And the moment that I let it go, the moment that I stopped listening to people with that, I launched myself into a whole different world, just with business, with health, and everything. And that piece of advice was, don't lose your friends along the way. Okay, it's a tough one, right? Because in theory, it makes sense, right? You have a group of friends, you start living a healthier lifestyle, you start making good decisions, and you don't want to abandon your friends, right? So you do whatever you can, but you don't realize that perhaps some of those friends weren't exactly the best influences. And it's one of the toughest things that you have to do, and one of the toughest things that I had to do was, quite honestly, grow out of some of my friends, and it was really tough. And it doesn't mean that you're rude and like throw them aside, but you strategically start changing your life a little bit. Let me give you an example. When I was working in the corporate healthcare world, my friends were the kinds of people that would take money over their families. Quite honestly, they wouldn't just, on the surface, they would never let people think that, but I know that they would. They would take work travel over spending time with their family. They would take going out to dinner and drinking their brains out over making a healthy decision over their food, with their food. They would go and want to do that because they could make a couple extra bucks closing a deal than they could being at home eating a healthy home-cooked meal, right? That is not the kind of people that I wanted to be around. And it took me 7, 8 months into my weight loss to realize that I'd outgrown my friends. And then guess what? That's when a majority of the weight fell off, because now I didn't have this bad influence anymore. I'm not saying you need to abandon all your friends, but there's sort of this law of attrition. Eventually you end up finding people that fit your environment and who you are as a person. And it didn't take long. I started spending more time in the gym. I started spending more time at the health food store. And guess what? You meet people. And all of a sudden you're in a different circle. So don't lose yourself or don't lose your friends. That's terrible advice. Why on earth would you want to confine yourself to a group of friends that are just going to make your life not worth living? Okay? You are you as an individual. Your friends are themselves as individuals. Do not define yourself by the group of friends that you hang out with. But remember that it is an environment that will persuade what you do with your life. So you pave the way. And some of the best advice that I have been given is drive yourself, don't be driven. Don't be driven by what your friends are motivating you to do and things like that. You drive yourself, and trust me, the weight will fall off, your life will change. Everything else, just gravy. As always, thank you for keeping it locked in here, and a big thank you to Noosh Foods for sponsoring this video and for making it possible for everyone to get their hands on some. See you all soon.